Interesting developments in the Sam Harris front. He did a podcast interview with Douglas Murray. Please go check out the whole thing. I wouldn't want to take him out of context. We're going to give you full quotes here. Now, he touched on many different things, and he talked about how President Obama is being politically stupid for how he's dealing with radical Islam. And look, I've got my own criticism of President Obama's foreign policy. So, okay, let's leave that alone. You watch the podcast or listen to it and make your own judgment calls on that, okay? Now, I just want to take two quotes here that I found interesting. I'm going to quote them at length, okay, so you get the full context, and then break it down for you guys, okay? So he talked about Ted Cruz and Ben Carson. He's going to talk about how he would vote for Ben Carson over Noam Chomsky. That's the second half. We'll get to that in a second, and why, okay? But first, he's talking about Ted Cruz's points about the Syrian refugees and how he'd only like to take the Christian ones and not take the Muslim ones. Now, that's a religious test. That's normally what people would call un-American, right? And religious tests have not worked out well in the past. But I know you're not allowed to talk about the past, okay? We're just allowed to blame Muslims for now. No, okay, wait. Let's give you the Sam Harris quotes. You make up your own mind, okay? So he says, take the personalities of people on the right out of the equation. Is it crazy to express, as Ted Cruz did, a preference for Christians over Muslims in this process? Of course not. Of course not, okay? So you can say, yes, I have a preference for Christians over Muslims. Okay, now why? Let's keep going. What percentage of Christians will be jihadists or want to live under Sharia law? 0. And this is a massive, in fact, the only concern when talking about security. We know that some percentage of Muslims will be jihadists inevitably. So it is not a mere bigotry or mere xenophobia to express that preference. I hope you understand that I'm expressing no sympathy at all with Ted Cruz's politics or with Ted Cruz. That's a funny way of showing no sympathy, okay. But it is totally unhelpful to treat him, though he actually is a religious maniac, like a bigot on this point. This is quite a reasonable concern to voice. Now, let's break this down. So, he says things that are, on the surface, if you're only looking at the surface, seems reasonable. Wait, the Christians, I guess they're not going to follow Sharia law. That point well made, right? Whereas some Muslims might. So, well, let's do a test and decide which religions we're going to allow into the country. Wait. There was a big jump there. So let's back up for a second. So, for example, in the internment camps, you could have said, well, is there any chance that non-Japanese people are going to do, kamikaze missions inside the United States, support Japan? We're at war with Japan. They just did Pearl Harbor, okay? They killed us. And you can't trust them. Not all of them, but some of them. Now, the French didn't do it. The Norwegians didn't do it. The Chinese didn't do it. It was the Japanese. We're at war with them. You have to understand that war. So will the Chinese or the French attack us? No, right? That's obvious. I stated a fact, right? Is it possible that some Japanese might attack us? Well, Sam might say inevitable, okay? But it's certainly possible. Well, I have stated two facts. What? So we now take the enormous jump. Let's put them into internment camps. Now, it's called an analogy for the Sam boys. Pipe down, he didn't say anything about internment camps. I know, dude, it's an analogy, okay? So in this case, he was very clear about what he said. He said, let's not let the Muslims in. So for those of you who are wondering, wait a minute, you're an atheist, Sam's an atheist. You think Islam is completely wrong. Sam thinks Islam is completely wrong. So where's the disagreement? The disagreement is in the policy. He says Muslims, this is a quote-unquote sophisticated way of saying Muslims can't be trusted. So my policy position, he's saying Ted Cruz, for all that he's saying wrong, is right about this issue. Go back and read it again. Go back and listen to the podcast. Listen to it in its wonderful context, overflowing context. He's saying the policy is don't let the Muslims into the country. You can let the Christians in, don't let the Muslims in. That is a policy I disagree with because those policies lead to very, very bad results. Is that the kind of country we want to be in? I mean, look, we can go ad nauseum here, Well, Tamil Tigers have done suicide bombing, right? So is there some chance that the Tamils would do suicide bombing? It depends on what the situation is, right? Okay, there goes the Tamils. And we can keep doing this all night long, right? Okay, but I think what's even more interesting is the way that he phrases things. So he says, I agree with Ted Cruz. Then he turns around and calls him a religious maniac. So that if you say, hey, wait a minute, you agreed with Ted Cruz, you agreed with his policy position, you go, oh, you're misrepresenting me. And then his fans will all come out and be like, he called him a religious maniac. He called him a religious maniac. Oh, you're misrepresenting him. You're misrepresenting. Yeah, it's a trick, dude. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. Okay? So he's a maniac, but I love him. No, love him is not fair. I'm sure that Sam disagrees with his positions in domestic policy. He says, he's a maniac, but I agree with him on policy, on this policy, right? So when you come back and go, why the hell did you agree with Ted Cruz? I said, I didn't. I called him a maniac. I called him a maniac. You're misrepresenting me. Okay? And plus, on top of that, you have to add, you're misunderstanding me. If you only were sophisticated enough to understand why the Muslims are inevitably dangerous and must be kept out of the country, then you would understand how sophisticated I am. Okay, let's go to Ben Carson. He says, given a choice between Noam Chomsky and Ben Carson, in terms of the totality of their understanding of what's happening now in the world, I'd vote for Ben Carson every time. Now, I didn't misrepresent him. That's his words. Did he misrepresent himself? Is he like Terrell Owens, who complained about being misquoted in his autobiography? Okay, let's find out why. Let's give you full context. Ben Carson is dangerously deluded religious imbecile. Oh, here comes the but. Ben Carson does not. The fact that he's a candidate for president is a scandal. But at the very least, he can be counted on to sort of get this one right. He understands that jihadists are the enemy. Okay, so when you say, hey, you said you'd vote for Ben Carson over Noam Chomsky, I called him an imbecile. Oh, you're misrepresenting me. I called him an imbecile. Oh, I see. So this is a trick he does throughout all of his books over and over again. Nuclear first strike would be so devastating. It would be a war crime. We really shouldn't do it, but we might have to. I didn't say we should, except you did. Then you turn around and said we shouldn't. It's a trick that Trump plays all the time, right? Like, hey, maybe we should look into the mosque. I'm not saying we should, but maybe we should. You know what I'm saying? He just does it with more flowery words. So he just did it right there with Ben Carson. I vote for Ben Carson. I mean, he's a maniac and he's crazy. Ted Policy's right on the issues. I like what he's saying on foreign policy. Oh, he's a maniac. Oh, I said he was a maniac. Come on, how many times are you going to fall for the same trick? And now the final part of this trick goes like this. Because he says both things at the same time, he shouts from the rooftops, cries and cries, and then he implies that you did it on purpose because you're a bad actor. You're a bad person trying to misrepresent him on purpose. And you can't be trusted on anything. You say, why did you not say that I said that Ben Carson's a maniac? Okay, now, here we are. We are saying it. But we're also pointing out the games that you play. Now, if you want to go to the policy, you wonder, wait, now, Reza Aslan, he's a guy who says he's Muslim. I've challenged him on it. I've had an interview with him. I had an interview with him at Current. I had him here on the Young Turks. I think his explanation of why he's a Muslim, I don't agree with it, okay? I'm not even sure I agree that, who am I to challenge his beliefs inside his head? But when he says why he's a Muslim, it sounds weird to me. And I take him at face value, okay? He says he is what he is, right? I disagree with him, okay? I think Islam is completely wrong. I think Christianity is completely wrong. I think all the religions are 100% wrong. By the way, they also have trouble with probability theory. Sam Harris, the great atheist, is like, now it's of course more likely that Jesus will return to Jerusalem than he'll return to Missouri. I got bad news for you. He's not returning anywhere. The chances are 0% return to Jerusalem, 0% return to Missouri. If you're a real atheist, you understand that. Do you really think there's a 1% chance Jesus is going to return to Jerusalem? Or wherever the hell he's planning to return according to the books? Do you think there's a 5% chance? Do you think there's a 10% chance? What percentage chance do you think there is? I'm an atheist. I believe there's a 0% chance. Okay? So as he goes through all this, then he says, oh, I'm so sophisticated. It's hard for you to understand me. And if you're either not understanding me or purposely lying about me, then you must be a bad person. These are the games that are played so that he can come back and go, on the policy, you should keep the Muslims out and vote for Ben Carson, who knows nothing whatsoever and supports his foreign policy. Ben Carson, when asked who is our top ally in the Middle East, or name any ally in the Middle East, he was asked on Friendly Turkey on Fox News. He couldn't name one ally. And this guy thinks that he understands Noam Chomsky, that Ben Carson understands foreign policy better than Noam Chomsky. There aren't enough palms for that face palm. You think Ben Carson, who can't name an ally in the Middle East, understands foreign policy better than Noam Chomsky? Okay, if you believe that, go ahead, support Sam Harris all day long. So to come back to Reza Aslan. So even though I ideologically disagree with Reza a lot more, so you say, why do you support him? Well, okay, we disagree on religion, but we agree on policy, right? And so the results, the actions that we take as a country are monumentally important. So even though I think Islam's 100% wrong, I'm not going to go in there and go in the middle of the Middle East and say, you're the problem, because that isn't going to work. It's going to be counterproductive. So if you want people to become more secular that are Muslim, you don't go spit in their face, right? Now, even if you thought, I don't care about that, and I just want the truth, and I'm going to go spit in their face. Okay, but what do we do as a country, right? Do we actually support Ben Carson? Because we think he understands the real problem of jihadists in the world? Do we vote for that monster? Do we support Ted Cruz's policies, which are openly bigoted? He says, it's not a confusion, and Sam just talked about it. Keep out the Muslims, bring in the Christians. What do you call that? I know what some of you call it. Oh, that's wonderful. They had the courage to be bigoted. I mean, the courage to call it like it is. Again, Trump supporters say the same exact thing. Oh, he had the courage to call it as it is, man. You know, hey, look, the Mexicans, that's how they are. Not all of them, but you know, some of them, criminals and rapists. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. Okay, got to keep them out. So, yes, I agree with Sam on ideology in terms of religion, okay? Although I don't think he's apparently not as good an atheist as I am. He thinks there's some percentage chance Jesus is returning. I'd ask him to look into that, okay? But no, I don't agree with his policies. I think his policies are dangerous. I think they lead down a dark road. And I honestly think if he's supporting this, that they're un-American. Now, that's for you to decide. That's my position. You saw his position. Listen to the full podcast. But please stop crying about the misrepresentation, because it's a trick. And he does it on purpose so that he can come out as the victim and be like, oh, what have they done to me? He's done it dozens of times. Wake up to what's happening.